The CD50n is an all-round digital music player that does CD playback, streaming, internet radio, DLNA playback, Apple Airplay 2 and even HDMI ARC with CSC support. It can be used in combination with an amp, but also has a preamp function and thus can be used with a power amp and active speakers. First, let me apologize. I've quite a cold, so my voice is not optimal. But let's get to work. Last week I reviewed the all-analog Marantz Model 50 amplifier that forms a team with the CD50n on review here. Although the latter can, of course, be used with any integrated amplifier, power amplifier or active speakers. Using the free HEOS app, it can stream music from the internet or your computer or NAS, but it can also play CDs. There are two flavors, silver and black. But before diving into it, let's give you an overview of where to use it. The CD50n is to be connected to the analog inputs of an amplifier or power amplifier that drives a set of loudspeakers or headphones, or to a set of active speakers. It needs to be connected to your home network over either Ethernet cable or Wi-Fi, so it can stream music from internet radio or streaming services. If you have a computer or NAS with music stored on it, that can be played to using the included remote control, the controls on the front, or the HEOS app for Android or iOS smartphones and tablets. Music on a USB drive can be played too. Stereo audio from the TV can be played over HDMI ARC and controlled over the TV's remote control using HDMI CSC. And if your DAT recorder, mini disc, mobile player or game console can use a better DAC, it can also be connected to the CD50n. Apple Airplay 2 is supported, and last but not least to some is Bluetooth. You can stream music from your smartphone, tablet or computer over Bluetooth to the CD50n, or the CD50n can stream music to your Bluetooth headphones or speakers. But it is one or the other. The metal cabinet measures 442 mm by 382 mm by 130 mm and weighs 13.3 kilograms. The measures are identical to that of the Model 50 amp. Like with the amp, all controls, with the exception of the power button and the headphone jack, are on the panel that appears to float in front of the actual front panel. On the left we see the transport buttons. The layouts serve aesthetics more than ergonomics, but you get easily used to it. Then the eject button, the input selector that lets you also select the setup menu, the CD drawer, the display that shows what's to select or what's playing, the phones level, and finally the buttons for operating the menu, starting with the back button, while the cursor buttons have the enter key in the middle. The remote control might be more ergonomic. It lets you also choose tracks on the CD and select inputs. Let's start on the right with the WPS button that lets you connect the CD50n with your Wi-Fi access point automatically if you press the WPS button on that too. Then the IAC mains inlet, the remote control selector and remote control bus, on which later on more. The RS232 connector for home automation and those fancy boardroom remote panels. To finish remote control off, there is a flasher input. The analog outputs are available as variable output level for use with a power amp or active speakers, and fixed output for use with integrated amps. Along the top we see the antenna sockets for the supplied Wi-Fi and Bluetooth antennas, a USB socket for external storage, the network connector, the HDMI ARC input for audio from your TV, the digital outputs on RCA, and on Toslink, the USB input to use the CD50n as a DAC for computers, and the SPDIF and Toslink digital inputs. After opening the lid we see two circuit boards, the CD trans board and the toroidal transformer. Furthermore, the shielding behind the front panel like with the Model 50 amp. The transformer is shielded and mounted on a separate plate to reduce vibrations. The rest of the power supply is under the digital board and thus not visible. Next to the linear power supply there is also a small switch mode power supply for the control circuits. It also makes the standby function consume very little power. On the digital board we see the HEOS streaming module mounted piggyback on the main board. Two Burr Brown's PCM9211 digital interface plus ADC chips are used to handle the SPDIF and Toslink inputs and outputs. The USB input is taken care of by the well-known XMOS interface chip. Here we also find an ESS ES9018 K2M DAC chip that, according to Marantz, is used for digital distribution on the digital PCB, like optical, coaxial, etc., and is fixed at 44.1 kHz. Then we find a number of processors like the Altera FPGA, an MS Logic one with next to it 128 Mbit DRAM and a Renesas microcontroller. It's always hard to define their function since its working is in the code. That's different for the processor in front of the CD transport since it is dedicated to CD and DVD drives. The driver chip for it is here. It sends control voltages to the drive close to it. Then we come to the analog board. On the right the discretely built headphone amp, situated directly behind the headphone jack. Centrally placed the ESS ES9038Q2M DAC chip with next to it the discretely built analog output stages. Note the copper bar as also used in the Model 50 amp for the power bus. Measurement shows that the CD50n is very well designed. It has low noise figures, very good linearity and low distortion according to the usual measurements. There are two reconstruction filters, just as on the Model 40N. I like filter 2 that has a slow roll-off towards the 20 kHz but has better phase response. Using the CD50 will take a small time to get used to since the layout of the controls on the front were influenced by aesthetics. Playing CDs is easy. Insert the CD, select CD as source and press play. For selecting music sources I found it more convenient to use the remote control and app. I have already showed the app while reviewing the Model 40N, so allow me to use that part of the Model 40N video here also. If you have your entire house full of HEOS equipment, it looks like this. When you have selected the streamer you want to control, this screen appears. Let's go to the music server and select the DLNA server on the Syn 8 NAS. I could browse through the artist like this, but it's quicker to go to the search menu and look for Pink Floyd to see I have 65 albums. Yes, I'm a Pink Floyd fan. Let's go for Echoes, the best of Pink Floyd. Tapping play now does what it says without erasing what's already in the play queue. Volume can be varied here, just like shuffle play and repeat. As always, I muted the music not to lose copyright and thus payment on my video. Tapping music along the bottom of the screen brings you back one level. Tapping it twice brings you to the sources screen. Let's show you Tidal. If you want to select a physical input, that can be arranged too, as can be seen here. It all works the same in other sources,
like for instance tune-in radio for internet radio. Local stations show the Dutch stations. It's a simple app, limited in features, but as a result of that, easy to understand and use. If you would like to use another app, all DLNA apps will do, while programs like Audiofana and J-River Media Center can send music to it since they all can address DLNA renderers.
Roon and Qobuz are not supported. In the Model 50 amplifier review, I already mentioned the way it can work together with the CD50n. Of course, the infrared remote signal can be linked through from one to the other, but here it goes a step further. As you can use the Model 50 amp as power amp, you can use the CD50n as digital preamp. Alternatively, the CD50n can be used with fixed outputs connected to the CD input. Now you use the preamp of the Model 50 to set the volume. In both cases, switching on one automatically switches on the other. And if you have a TV with HDMI ARC and you have connected it to the HDMI input on the CD50n, switching on the TV also switches on the Model 50 and the CD50n. Select the correct inputs on both while you can set the volume using the TV remote. Finally, the family can use a TV with good sound and without special training. Kudos! I started off with my setup too, but since the Marantz Model 50 amp still was around and it is better than my Marantz PMKL Per Lite, I used that. Plus I could enjoy the integration between the Model 50 and the CD50n. I connected them over Siltec London RCA cable. The Acoustic Energy Radiance 1 loudspeakers were used again, supported by the REL T5 subwoofer, this time connected to the loudspeaker terminals of the Model 50. The network connection was made using a Cat6 patch cable to the Uptone ether regen, powered by the Uptone UltraCaps 1.2. The dirty side of the ether regen is connected to the cable modem over a long Cat6 patch cable and to the central switch on the third floor, and from there to the internet modem. The DLNA server program Minim server was running on the Synology DS1819 Plus NAS. The equipment was placed in a target rack. All listening was done using a reconstruction filter 2, and an iPad Pro was used to run the HEOS app. I was quite amazed by the CD50n. The overall sound quality is higher than the price suggests. There's a royal stereo image with a good three-dimensional placement of instruments with lots of air around it. The timbre was slightly warm, but not at the expense of resolution or precision. The lows go deep and have good texture. The mids and highs are well integrated with the lows. Together with an excellent microdynamics, it produces a very involving sound field. Let's see how it survives my setup 1B. Here the amp is the Air Acoustics AX520. It drives the PMC FAC12 signature on Stack Audio over 70 isolators using AudioQuest Robin Hood Zero loudspeaker cable. The Zixel GS1900-10 HP switch was connected to the CD50 over a Network Acoustics Eno system. From the switch, a fiber connection goes upstairs where the Synology DS1819 Plus NAS runs Minim server as DLNA source. A long patch cable connects the switch to the internet modem on the ground floor. HEOS was run on the Apple iPad Pro. The equipment was placed in the Creative Trend 3 rack. The CD50 keeps surprising me. This is really an extremely good streaming deck and CD player for the money, sound-wise. It's all described in sound quality number 1, but here the integral of all qualities become fully clear. It is a very good musical deck, better than the Mytek that I normally play here. But it is integrated with a network player that equals the Magnum Nano Ultra MK3 Farad. Often the streamer in a streaming deck is not of the same quality as the deck itself. I know of a €10,000 costing streaming deck that has very disappointing streaming integrated. Not here, and not at €10,000. At €1,800, the CD50n is a steal if it were a DAC alone. With both a good sounding CD player and streamer aboard, well, what can I say? Okay, I personally miss Roon and Cobus capability, but if you don't need that and you're in the market for a €2,500 to €3,000 streaming deck, this is the one to look at. Oh, and I think it's a looker. Which brings me to the end of this video. See you next week, Friday at 5 PM Central European Time. If you don't want to miss that, subscribe to this channel or follow me on the social media so you will be informed when new videos are out. Help me reach even more people by giving this video a thumb up or link to this video in the social media. It is much appreciated. Many thanks to those viewers that support this channel financially, especially in these times. It keeps me independent and lets me improve the channel further. If that makes you feel like supporting my work too, the links are in the comments below this video on YouTube. I'm Hans Beekhuizen, thank you for watching and see you next week. And whatever you do, enjoy the music.